The play on the field, the court, and the ice is just one part of sports. Behind every game are the people hard at work so we can enjoy the action. They're the owners, administrators, agents, broadcasters, and vendors who bring the games to life. Meet them when you go Behind the Game with Patrick Klinger and Dave Bowden.
Welcome to Behind the Game. I'm Patrick Klinger, president of Agile Marketing Partners. My regular co-host, Dave Bowden, is down sunning his tummy in Key West, no doubt with a frilly drink in his hand. But Dave should be back with us next month. Before we get started with today's show, I want to welcome a brand new presenting sponsor to Behind the Game. KLN Family Brands manufactures great products like Wiley Wallaby licorice and Sweet Chaos drizzled popcorn, as well as Nutrisource pet foods. So we're absolutely thrilled to have KLN Family Brands, a terrific Minnesota-based company. So today, we're going to talk corporate partnerships in sports. We're just a couple of days away from Super Bowl 59, which is really the zenith in advertising in sports. So it's very appropriate that we're having this conversation today. And we're going to do it with two friends. First, Bryan Bellows, who is currently in his 20th season with the Minnesota Wild. Bryan serves as the Senior Director of Corporate Partnerships for the club. And Barbara Joers is the President and CEO of Gillette Children's in St. Paul, a global leader providing specialty care for children who have disabilities and rare and complex medical conditions. Thank you both for being on Behind the Game.
Thanks for having me.
Great to have you here. Bryan, we're going to get started with you. Advertising in sports is ubiquitous, right? And it's really essential to the bottom line. It's estimated that fans typically hear over 3,000 branded messages during any particular sporting event. How do you make sure that sponsorships enhance the fan experience rather than detract from it?
Fantastic question. It's definitely not unique to sports. That being, I think we're bombarded with advertising every day, wherever we go. Professional sports, however, is a little bit unique in a sense that we're able to creatively connect brands with maybe parts of a game, within the game, the passion, the fandom that goes along with professional sports. So while there are several corporate sponsors you're going to see in any sporting event you go to, it's, I think that we've done a pretty good job of trying to allow those brands in their own way to stand out to our passionate fan base.
Good. Barbara, in recent years, hospitals and health systems have really gotten into the game with sports. Why the recent surge in hospital sponsorships in sports?
I think, when you think about your healthcare and clinical care, it's usually not a billboard that you're making these big life decisions. So at least for our hospital, which is a specialty hospital, that engagement, right? And the community effort, when the community rallies around a team and then they see that their players have trust in this organization and can speak to it, and then they come visit, it makes it a more holistic journey for individuals. And for current patients, it also gives that lens of saying it's a notch of credibility. So when teams are in good standing, like the Wild and other teams here in the region, they add a perspective to that wholeness that people carry and that community feel. And so from my perspective, hospitals get into that because it's part of that community, the trust, the caring, we're all in it together.
Gillette Children sponsors the Wild, the Twins, Minnesota United. What are some of the factors that you consider when you're looking at a sponsorship with a team?
Authenticity. So it's a two-way game that we play here of how do we make our respective missions thrive a little bit better. So we look for the organizations that are inclusive and actively engaged in the community. So we don't want our name just on a sideboard or up on a billboard. We like having that engagement with the players for our patients, not for me and for others, but really for the players to understand our mission, and then they give our patients and their families opportunities. So it's that activation, if you would, of the marketing part. So there's a lot of passive marketing, but that running the bases at Twin Stadium, getting to watch the game with a captain at the Wilds game, delivering game balls for the United, that individual who gets chosen from Gillette through lottery are representing thousands of patients. And then the other patients are drawn into that game, and it becomes something that brings us together.
Bryan, long gone are the days of slapping a logo on a dasher board, right, and calling it a job well done.
The easy days.
Obviously we're living in a much more digital world than
Right.
we did in the past. How is technology shaping corporate sponsorship in sports?
Well, I think, especially for hockey fans, for the Minnesota Wild, you really are noticing it the last couple of seasons, I would say, with our digitally enhanced dasher boards when you watch a game on TV. And the advertisements on the boards are very different than what you would see in the arena if you're attending a game. The technology, I would say, that's been the biggest is probably AI, artificial intelligence. And the digitally enhanced dasher boards, for example, that's an AI-based technology that allows our brands to be so much more than a logo. I know a lot of times, and every brand has their own different sort of branding or their own initiatives on what they want out of a partnership with us. And many times, and take a brand like CHS, great Minnesota Wild partner. Nobody really understands what CHS is, and that was one of their challenges. But through digitally enhanced dasher boards, you're able to put animation across the boards, brand messaging across the boards. So it's just a much more dynamic ability. So technology is just, it's really allowing us to do a lot more with our corporate partners and give them a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Is there a concern at all that you're feeding the fans too much information, you're distracting them too much from the game? For instance, I come from Major League Baseball, and the netting, the safety netting, only went to really a short distance behind home plate. Yeah. Well, now, of course, it stretches all the way down the foul lines, and predominantly it's because people are on their phones, their heads are down, and if a screaming foul ball comes into the stands, they don't have time to react.
Yes. I think the netting example is a prime example, a perfect example of, and we had it happen many years back in the NHL. Unfortunately, in Columbus, a fan was struck, a little teenage girl, and passed from it. So the NHL had to make sweeping changes for safety of our fans. And they put nets all behind the nets, or all behind the goal and very high up. And the season ticket holders behind the nets absolutely lost their minds. They were so not happy about their view being affected. Fast forward a few years, and it really goes away. Inherently, people don't like change, but people get accustomed to it. So that's kind of our mindset with it. It's new, and it's just going to take a little bit of time before it's not just in the NHL, but all sports are going to be taking advantage of it.
Yeah. Barbara, there are several children's hospitals in the Twin Cities. It is a competitive environment. How do your sponsorships help differentiate you from the other children's hospitals in the area?
Yeah. I think a lot of what Bryan already addressed is when you find a partner and you can tell the story. And so our sports partners, again, they're really engaged with us, and they understand the difference of when you come into Gillette Children's, what our kids' life experiences are than some of the other hospitals. And some of the different ways that they move and they talk and they communicate. And so each of the children's hospitals is very unique. The community thrives because of the different specialties that we all have. But what's great is each of our patient populations are different, so we each have that focus. And for Gillette, we leverage our sports partners to say, help tell the story and help say they're part of our society and our community like everyone else, and how do we work together to make their childhood better.
Beyond the paycheck, Bryan, what else does a partnership with an entity like Gillette Children's bring to the Wild?
It brings quite a bit. It's, I would say, in particular, the Wild are a well-known entity. We're out in the community, but partnering with like a Gillette, it boosts us out in the community even more. And then even foremost, when we have a player that can attach themselves and as an example, Jared Spurgeon, a fantastic individual, and is, I would say, what's the term that we use, is the ambassador to the Gillette partnership. And I mean, Jared doesn't receive a dime for that. That is something Jared wants to do on his own. And whether it's Jared or any of our other players, it gives them the opportunity to brighten some young patients' days and maybe years. I mean, from what they're going through, it just gives back so much more to the organization. Not to say that other partnerships aren't fulfilling, but it's fulfilling in a different way.
Yeah, and to watch our patients and their parents and their caregivers even react when the players engage, like Jared and his wife, and doing arts and crafts and really getting in there. One of our patients walked out of her clinic and walked into 8 Wild players, and she is that age, with the and the, guess who I'm with, and they took the time. They were on their way out and took the time to spend with her and give her that life moment, but also then that energy just carries throughout the hospital and the clinic system.
Yeah. Well, to piggyback on that a little bit, and you touched on it a bit before, but the supporting the home team really provide an extra step in, in the step of your employees. Are they excited by the fact that you're backing the Minnesota Wild or Minnesota United or the Twins?
Yes, and in 2 ways. One, they're excited because, sports are fun. We have Jersey Day and all of that, and it's something that can ease a little bit of the tension of being a healthcare worker. They don't have easy jobs or simple jobs, so we do these things to help bring levity and a little bit of joy to their work life, so they get very excited, get very into sports days that we hold for our teams. But the secondary is they know they care. Yeah. And so even though they see it's marketing, when they're out and they hear us on the news or the stories are being told or it's up at the boards and you get all of the crowds cheering for our kids, there's that pride and that, hey, they see us and they understand this is a group effort and going through. So there's a few different ways that it brings joy and a quiet build in the resilience of our staff to know that people care.
It goes back to what you said earlier, is an authentic partnership.
Yes.
It truly is. And it's the connection that a partner like Gillette and a sports team can have, whether it's the Wild or the United. It's beyond just the organization and the partner. I mean, to your point, the fans get a lot more out of it. Just last night, we had Diversified Hockey Night presented by Gillette. And I was just talking on the way in to Barbara. I have never actually seen blind hockey before, but the first and foremost, all the fans were asked to be quiet because the puck is actually a giant ball that has I would say bearings in it, so it allows them to hear where it's at. And the entire sold-out crowd was just quiet. It was amazing. And then when one kid almost scored, I mean, it was like the Wild scored. So, I mean, our fans, we have the greatest fans in the world. So.
I was there last night. I saw that.
That's right.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Corporate partnerships are really, really important to the bottom line. As we see salaries in sports escalate, immensely, right? I mean, we're in the $700 million range with Major League Baseball players now.
Yeah, that's great.
Quarterbacks in the NFL are making $60 million a year. How much pressure does that put on someone like you in your department to generate revenue to help pay those salaries?
Well, first and foremost, the NHL is way lower than all of that, which makes it a lot easier on the pressure when it comes on to me. But, we've got great ownership, and our owner, Craig Leopold, is always said he's going to spend to the cap. And that's another thing that I love about our sport compared to other sports is there is a hard cap. So some of those salaries aren't going to get out of control. I mean, they are league mandated as high as the team can go. But essentially, we have aggressive goals every year, and they're aggressive for a reason. I mean, we are a business, and we want to make sure we take care of our players and have that ability to spend to the cap. But I would say because our salaries are a little bit more modest compared to the other leagues, it's not too much. It's not too much pressure.
Barbara, as a nonprofit, every dollar counts.
Yes.
Have you ever had to feel any, why are we spending money on sports rather than equipment or facility questions from your donors, your board,
Yeah,
others?
every healthcare has that business behind the scenes, and every business you have to have a plan. So we look at what's the dollar impact, and you'll notice that while we have partnerships, they're not what I would say those super big ones. You don't see us coming with the Gillette cars or whatnot and parking them in the lobby, nor are we funding a $700 million. I learned something from you today, wow, on the salary caps. But no, we haven't had the question yet. I'm sure maybe after this goes out, possibly, but we do a ratio, and we make sure that we're making the smartest use of every dollar and that it's not in the place of something. I think the Wild has been good partners with us when we did have challenges over the years. Where do you ebb and flow, and what do you do? But we thought the partnership was more important, and we worked something out together. And I think that's the spirit of the marketing dollar. We do not have a large marketing budget, as you can imagine, being a not-for-profit, and that's why we look for that authentic partner. You're not going to see us on a billboard or something. You're going to see us where we can get in the homes of people and give experiences to those in our Gillette community that make that dollar go so much further than a try. Does that?
Yeah, and I think, I have friends with, I would say, all my colleagues for all the sports teams in this town in particular. And I mean, we take these relationships and these partnerships very seriously. There's other places for brands, whether it be Gillette or whether it be, AT&T, Verizon, whoever it is, to spend their advertising money. But what differentiates professional sports, or I would just say sports sponsorship, sports advertising, is that connection and that ability to offer things that maybe strictly TV, radio advertising, internet advertising doesn't allow. So,
I remember when Viagra came into sports, and they started advertising with some teams on the rotational signage, or they had LED, and of course you saw them on the television commercials while you were watching the game, and it made for some awkward moments watching the game with grandma, right? Wasn't easy. I remember specifically when I was with the Twins, there was some discussion about whether we would take that advertising or not, and it was iffy. Legal product, of course, but
is it the right move?
Is it the right move?
Yes.
Is it appropriate for our fans? Well, the money gets to a point, and you say, okay, I think we'll take it. Are there any sponsorships that you've had? Any companies that have approached you wanting to do a sponsorship, wanting to work with the Wild, and you just said, nope, we can't go there?
Well, first of all, on the Viagra piece, I have to say I cut my teeth in professional sports with the St. Paul Saints. And I was a very young individual. And it's kind of funny because we ended up doing a sponsorship with Viagra without Viagra knowing years ago. I'm sure the statute of limitations is over. But it was inflatable bat giveaway presented by Viagra. And we thought that would be a funny idea. That is as St. Paul Saints as it gets, right? Now, fast forward. To be honest with you, we first and foremost, we seek out the vast majority of our partnerships. I wish I could say we have brands just calling us ready to spend money. Our jobs are much more challenging than that. But there are certain areas we do stay away from. First and foremost, political. When it comes to election year, whereas TV spots for candidates, they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars. We've said we're going to take a step back. We're not going to participate in this for just many different reasons. We don't need to get involved in that type of stuff. Other than that, we're not seeking out gentlemen's clubs. We're a family brand. Yeah, the Minnesota Wild has and always will be, a very big family brand. So we always keep that in mind.
Yeah. Barbara, women's sports are having a major moment right now, which is fantastic, by the way. And it seems that fans are really rewarding brands that support them. Do you think more hospitals will be jumping on the bandwagon and supporting female sports?
Yes, and here in Minnesota, we have so many, which is fantastic. So I'm trying not to be biased because obviously I support them for many, many reasons. But I think the growth of those athletic clubs will grow with the marketing dollars as well. And when we think about our families and trying to show our kids a path they can take, and a lot of our kids want to be athletes, and we have all these programs to help them achieve their goals, I think it's just a relief now that our female and our girls can see a path into that. I certainly hope that the marketing goes there, and I know it's competitive, and it makes it harder for Bryan and the other sports. But I would like to see some of that equity and, have some of those name brands up there for the women's sports as well, and to build that stability as well, because a lot of that is still off the backs of donors.
Yeah, it's been remarkable what Caitlin Clark has done for
incredible.
women's
Yes,
sports. I mean, it was coming before Caitlin Clark, but I think she really blew the lid off of it,
Yeah.
right? And what we've seen in the WNBA and the brands who have lined up to support female sports is really, it's incredible, and a long time coming.
I'm not a marketer, but I'd love to see some collaboration there between the teams, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And
but-
we collaborate with the Frost, and
Right.
I do see someday, there being more professional women's sports teams coming to this market. Not necessarily in any specific sport to name, but there's lots of smart people that want to take advantage of the right things, and the increase in the popularity of women's sports is one of those.
Yeah. Isn't there a professional women's volleyball team about to come into the market?
No, there's a professional, not that I know of there, but there's a professional league that is out there, a couple of professional volleyball leagues that is trying to find markets to expand in. And I believe at one point Minnesota was discussed and mentioned by them, but
We
not
do
yet.
have the women's ultimate frisbee pros.
And we do.
We do, so
Yeah.
I think there's a guys team too.
There you
I'm
go.
not sure.
Oh, it really is fantastic to see, because I think it gives young girls an opportunity to look at someone and say, I can aspire to that.
Yeah.
Where in the past, they played maybe through college, right?
Right.
And that was really the end
Right.
for them. And you still see incredible discrepancy between the salaries in the NBA and the WNBA, but hopefully that starts to switch a little
And that's
bit.
going to be one thing too. And I mean, aside, like, Barbara brought this up, but and I don't see this being something that is a Gillette thing. But when these teams do come, is the corporate brands out there, the corporate sponsors, truly coming to the table with not small dollars, supporting, truly putting their money where their mouth is, and supporting these girls, these women. And basically not just talking about it, but truly, again, putting their money where their mouth is. So that's going to be time will tell on that, because I know that has been one of the things discussed and sort of certain circles complain about with some of the professional women's sports.
Yeah, to Barbara's point earlier, authenticity,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
If you want to get into it, do it for the right reasons.
Yeah, don't
not
go in it with just one. Don't just dip one toe in the water.
and say, look what we did.
Correct.
Naming rights are really the holy grail of sponsorships. You're looking for a new partner as we speak for what is now known as the Xcel Energy Center. Building renovations are in the works. How is the process going, and when might we expect an announcement?
Well, it's been a long process. We've had a great partner in Xcel Energy, and they, if you think about why they came on board, you're talking 25, 26 years ago. They're a utility, and you think, why is a utility doing a naming rights? Well, back then it was that industry was on the verge of deregulation, so they made a commitment to something, hedging that it might go a certain way, and it didn't. But they were good partners, they honored, and they've come forth to say, hey, look, we're going to stay on board Minnesota Wild. We're going to be very good partners for years to come, but it's someone else's turn to be able to come in and be the new naming rights partner. So we've been talking with many different brands, many different businesses, and we've narrowed it down. And I would say by springtime, early summer, you'll be hearing about a new naming rights partner for the arena in St. Paul.
Is that Minnesota Spring or?
Yeah, yes, Minnesota
Yeah,
Spring.
okay.
which is,
little
yeah,
bit
when does that
later.
actually
Yeah,
kick in,
okay.
huh?
Nicely played.
Yeah, well, you know, it's a major undertaking. We were talking off the air.
Yeah.
When you undergo renaming of a sports facility, it is a tremendous task.
Yeah.
And then you have the challenge of getting fans to adapt to that.
Absolutely.
Because for 25 years it's been known as the XL Energy Center, and now you're asking them to call it something else.
Correct. Yeah, it's all the partners, prospective partners we've talked to. You know, that's come up. They know. They're not foolish. No one's going to jump into an investment like that thinking all of a sudden day one all fans are just going to call it the new arena name. But you know, you mentioned the renovations that have been public that we will be seeking. You know, that's going to help if you have some major changes to the building. It's not just putting a new name on a building. So we're hopeful, but yeah, it'll take a little bit of time. But Wild fans are passionate. They'll find the new partner to be good.
Barbara, at the end of the season, how do you know if a sponsorship has been a home run or a strikeout?
Oh, nice analogy. So, put that puck in the net.
Thank you.
Actually, we know because while the season is wrapping up, there's more communication that's not brokered between our team and the sports teams, especially with the Wild. And as it comes to the end, we have more discussion. You hear more from the community, like, hey, we saw Gillette at the game, or we saw your kids engage. Thanks for doing that. So I think when it's a real win and everyone's talking about it, it's like that we can't wait to see what you do next season. And we become part of that franchise and that what comes next. So it's a natural wind down. So if your team's not, hopefully we all go to the playoffs, but if you don't, we feel that. And Bryan's team will call and connect with us, then we start doing some tours with it. And as long as it's top of mind with our patients, we're top of mind for the sports agents, agency that we're working with, and it's top of mind for our staff, we continue.
And there's actual data
They
that
have
will go
real
into it
data.
as well.
I'm going with the impression.
That's okay. We like that.
Yeah, I mean, but you have everything from the number of times our name is out there and all the marketing metrics that are there. How long were we on screen time for? How many people did a text to give or when something else is happening in the arena? How quiet it gets when kids play, how loud it gets when they're running the bases. All of those metrics, both qualitative and quantitative, are in the mix, so don't take light to it to go through with it. But towards the end of the season, the speaking goes up. The engagement, the excitement gets a little bit more of, let's see what we can do next.
Yeah, fantastic. Quick question for both of you, and we're down to our last minute and a half or so. Fast forward 5 to 10 years, what do you see corporate sponsorships looking like?
I see there probably being even more digital signage. The experience sitting at home will probably be even much more different than the experience in the arena or the stadium. Ultimately, though, we got to keep bringing people in. That's very, very important to keep selling out those crowds. So I just see it being a lot more dynamic utilizing technology.
You have anything?
Oh, yes. No, 5 to 10 years, it's the ongoing, the annuity relationship and having our kids grow up with the sports and with the players. Trades are very hard on our kids, once they bond with them. So 5 to 10 years, we like to see that same thing. The arena's filled, the stadium's filled, and the community continuing to rally for their nonprofits, especially for their children's hospitals, as we do these community efforts.
Fantastic.
Right.
Pick for the Super Bowl?
I get. That is a tough one.
So we're taping this before the Super Bowl. It's going to air after the Super Bowl.
I have to go with a new regime. I got to go with Philly.
Yeah, I'm going Eagles. Go Bills. Yeah.
She's a big
I'm a
Bills
big
fan.
Bills fan, I
Bills.
hear. Yes.
Lastly, really, really quickly, favorite TV commercial during the Super Bowl? Any stand out?
Oh God. I think
over
I've
the
seen
years?
one with the comedian. Can't even think of his name right now. He's
So it didn't really stand
that
out.
didn't really stand out.
I think it's a teaser for this year, but I think it's DoorDash or Grubhub, one
Yeah.
of them.
Oh,
Forgive me, but
that's a
like
great
Jerry
one.
Rice. I mean,
Fantastic.
I
Matthew
mean, with the
McConaughey.
Manning brothers, that's awesome. Yeah.
Thank you both for being on Behind the Game. I really appreciate it. Great conversation today.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thanks for having me.
Thank all of you for watching. Thank KLN Family Brands for presenting Behind the Game. And we'll see you again next month.